All right, you ready, Jessica?
I'm ready.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the GGP channel here on Twitch. Today we have a very special guest with us. My name is Mason. I'm part of the GGP family. And with us today, we have the lead narrative designer, Jessica, who has created a very spectacular game known as Drag Her. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you here. This is a game that I've actually got to play myself. So I'm just like elated to get to talk to you and find out a little bit more about the creation process, about you, and about drag culture. So let's just begin with your early beginnings, if you don't mind. What is your professional background and how did you get into creating games?
It is a wild journey. I feel like whenever I tell people this, there's always like, what? So I went to college to be a forensic scientist, which I did.
Okay.
I worked in a forensic lab for a year and I hated it. And then I literally left and ran away and joined the circus. And and for the past, not counting quarantine and COVID, I have been an aerialist and creature performer for probably the past 7 years.
Let me pick my
I
jaw
know.
back up. That's
it's a lot of things.
Starting off strong here, so keep going, please.
Yeah. So I did all those things. I wrote in all of my spare time. I love to write fantasy, science fiction, poetry, all that stuff. And I worked a little bit for Ian Ramsey, who is the producer and business manager of Fighting Chance Games. And he and Josie, the artist, had been talking about a game. And they were like, Jessica's a writer. Jessica, what do you think about writing on this game? And I love drag culture and have been immersed in it for a while and love video games. So I was like, yeah, I'm definitely competent in this. And then I wrote a game.
Okay.
Which is an insane trajectory that doesn't make any sense.
And have they pitched you like particular like key points of this game to you, or was this just like born from the beautiful mind?
Yeah, it was just all of us kind of talking, and I love fighting games. They've known for, I mean, I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan. And I think like to me, when you say drag-based fighting game, I completely understand everything I need to know about that. Like I'm like, yes, understood. How can I do this? And it was just something I felt kind of weirdly uniquely set up for because I was kind of this middle ground of like huge drag fan, fighting game player, and also physical performer. Because I do all the motion capture as well for the game. So like all of the weird poses and moves and stuff was all me. I did all of that behind the scenes.
Okay.
So it's this kind of like individual point where I think Jessica was made for that.
I'd love to dive a little bit more into the motion capture performance, but first I just want to congratulate you on your most recent win for the AT&T Unlock Games Contest. So well deserved.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible. I'm so happy for you. But
Thank you.
Now having been through a successful Kickstarter campaign, what are some of the lessons you learned through the process of funding?
I think when I was on the AT&T Unlocked, Jay Powell was one who said, like, there's a reason why a lot of these games don't come to fruition, and because it's hard. And I think that is a really big lesson. I think for people who want to make games and for people who watch people making games and think like, oh, I could do that, I would love you to, because it's really difficult. Like we've really encountered some difficulty finding funding as an indie game studio, as a small game studio, as a studio who's making sort of a not mainstream game, because I learned that fighting games are not kind of this, they're considered like a niche game, which is insane to me because I'm like, what? Fighting games? But yeah,
we all know and love fighting games, right?
Right. And so, I mean, like the Street Fighters and the Mortal Kombats, I guess, are kind of the outliers in that they're so wildly successful. And there are so many other games that are smaller and like we love them, but apparently they don't have the same pathway. So I think it's really difficult, but I think having people around you that you really believe in, who believe in you, is such a gift. I feel like trust and support from my team who were just like, tell us what to do. We will do this. And I went in and created a full character. And I was like, here's how this character works. And they were like, okay, good. Mm-hmm. And I think just finding people you love to work with who inspire you and vice versa. I think that's the most thing I've learned, and that making video games is really hard.
Had you made any other video? Is this your first, like?
This is my first one.
I think this is a pretty damn solid first game to.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
So.
Yeah,
I know.
I mean, I know it's still in production, but
yes.
Yeah, what a great beginning to your story into this industry, right? And so you actually, like, you have like two huge audiences that are like very passionate about their fan base, right? Like fighting games and drag culture, right? Mm-hmm. And so you previously mentioned that Mortal Kombat was a huge inspiration for your game. So what is it that ignites your love of fighting games like Mortal Kombat, and what of those elements are you bringing into Drag Her?
We are stealing all of the camp of Mortal Kombat and turning it up to 11 for Drag Her, because I think it's weird because I try not to change how I talk about the game to like straight audiences versus queer audiences, because I really do think that there's no need to. But at the same time, there was a time where I was trying to understand, like, how would I pitch Drag Her to an audience who doesn't really understand drag? And then I was like, well, all these things that people think of as being like not queer or whatever are total, like wrestling, for example, is what I think of. Like, wrestling is so campy and so queer. And I say that as a very supportive thing. Like, it is drag.
It is. It's just as performance-based as drag is, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
It is. And I love that. And I'm like, why wouldn't you want to like have those things all happen to you? And so Mortal Kombat, we're taking all of the camp. One of the taglines we used a lot at the beginning of the campaign, which I'm very proud of, is "Drag Her is a less gay Mortal Kombat."
A less gay Mortal Kombat?
Oh
amazing.
Okay. Because I mean, Mortal Kombat, I grew up with Mortal Kombat. I love it so much. It's so campy and outlandish, and that's what I live for. And so that's what we're trying to hope to bring to Drag Her, but with exponentially more silliness, more stupidity, and hopefully just as much like cool, sickening moves where you're like, oh, I want to do that again. Oh, I want to do that again. Mm-hmm. So just asking for really small things here.
Just tiny, right?
Yeah.
Were there any other games that influenced Drag Her? Or
definitely, I know that the other team members have more, but for me, when I thought about this game, it was Mortal Kombat and Clay Fighter. Those two games, because Clay Fighter, I think, really capitalizes on its campiness, and Mortal Kombat, I think, takes itself seriously in a campy way. Mm-hmm. And Clay Fighter is like, a meteor came from outer space and hit a circus. Anyways, here's us. And I live for that kind of stuff where it's just like, yep. So those two games were probably my biggest inspirations going into this. But I know like Skullgirls has been some of the inspirations for other people. Definitely Street Fighter. Also Primal Rage. I love to watch dinosaurs fighting.
Okay, yeah.
So
who does it, right?
Yeah.
Or who just doesn't like dinosaurs in general, right? It's like
I don't know anybody.
Puppies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with many fighting games, the moves tell the story of the character. How do you incorporate moves with the characters who are based on real people?
This has been my like most fun kind of area, because the process I go through is I just kind of inundate myself with that. So like Kimchi, for example, is going to be roster in our game. And I just kind of inundate myself with Kimchi media. I go to Instagram, I go to all of the visual things I can get of them, and I just kind of let it soak in. And then I think of what kind of archetype of a character they might be. And then I just write all these really stupid jokes based on that. So like one of them, like for people who don't know, there's something called mukbang, which is like I believe it's a Korean sensation, but now it's much more widespread, of sharing a meal with somebody, but over a distant, like a camera, or just.
And she's a Korean drag artist, just in case anyone doesn't know who Kimchi is. Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, nobody doesn't know who Kimchi is. And so mukbang, to me, I'm like, oh, that's a bomb that Kimchi throws that is a bunch of kimchi that is fermented and explodes. Okay. So just thinking of like really dumb jokes, I can like, Kimchi is known for her amazing looks and they're also versatile, but also food based, which I love. So she dressed up like a pancake one time. So I made a move called pankake where she hit somebody with the pancake. Just normal.
Just normal, everyday,
right.
Go about life things.
Right.
A question in regards to Kimchi, just is there any sister jokes that are thrown in the
not yet.
Not yet.
Not
okay.
yet. There will be. So again, we're still in the planning phases, but we definitely have some sister jokes. It's just dumb, and I love. Like, I'm so proud.
You have to lean into it, right?
Yeah, I think what's the point if you don't?
Yeah, let's totally have fun with it. Please. I'm very excited to see what you come up with. But
I know, but that's kind of how I create the moves. Is I sort of look at them and how they perceive their drag or like send off their drag to the world, and then I'll craft a personality based on that. We amp it up a little bit, right? Like we want to lean into it so everything's a little bit sillier, stupider, weirder. And then I just do a bunch of weird stuff in my living room, and I'm like, that works.
Well, actually, like leads into my next question. So, being an aerialist, as you said, must have helped you understand how the human body moves, right? So you're very fluid. How did you incorporate your art of movement into the game?
That's one of my favorite things I've gotten to do was the motion capture. At first I was writing all the moves and our artist would be like, can you explain this to me? And I was like, can I just show you? As a physical performer, it's so much easier for me to use my body to show something because I do have a really kind of deep love and understanding of how my body works within the world. So that was really easy for me. And it was fun to do different characters who not only express themselves. So like Landon Cider, for example, Landon Cider is a drag king. Mm-hmm. And that's a totally different body vibe attitude from, Kimchi, like we said, who is a Korean drag queen. They all have different body proportions. They all have different attitudes. And I love that because I have to learn how to adopt that into my body. And I would argue having a physical performer do those things is much more helpful than like, if I didn't know what I was doing, because I've done motion capture before. So it was this weird thing that I offered up. I didn't think would be as helpful as it was, where I was like, oh, do you want me to just do this? And Josie was like, can you do this for everything? I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. Let me just do this. And so I would just film videos here of what I like, different versions of things, because I was like, whatever you pick of these, I'm happy with. I wanted to give Josie some room to, create within like a guideline. And I was like, here's six options of how this move could work.
Okay.
And yeah, doing the physicality of this has been so fun because I feel like I get to be all the drag performers, but do none of the lifelong effort and energy and money it costs to become that drag performer.
The hours spent like applying their face and wig and the fashion. Oh my gosh, it's grueling. But do you plan on incorporating any of the actual like artists that are going to be part of the game like into the motion capture, or do you just like take cues from like you research the movements and their just like signature moves of sorts?
Some of the artists I know we have, like, they want more involvement. I don't know if they want to physically do I know they're doing all the voices for all of their characters. So like any voice stuff they're going to do, which is perfect. I don't know who, if any, wants to kind of do any physical versions of themselves. I'm going to guess probably not, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, motion capture is just a whole like beast of its own, right? So I don't even know. I've spoken to a motion capture artist before, but is there any kind of like insight you'd like to give us on like what that even like looks like and like the creation process for the game?
Yeah, it looks like insanity. But one of the things, I mean, this is weird because this is one of the tenets of our game. We don't talk about it too much, but it's really important to me. I instituted this at the start of our game since this is a queer game. And there's a lot of queer characters in it and it represents queer culture. There's no we call it consequence-free violence in this game. There's no bruising. There's no blood. It's like the opposite of Mortal Kombat. There's no blood. We are not trying to re-traumatize our people who have gone through hate crimes and all these things. We always say drama, not trauma.
Yes.
So when I'm creating these things, I make sure my facial expressions are never pained. I'm never in pain. I'm always like grossed out that someone's touching me, or like don't want them to be near me, or like insulted that they would be so close to me. And that's been really interesting because I think fighting game, the normal is to be like, ow, and we don't have that. So that has been kind of an interesting, it's one of those things that's a challenge, but it, I think, leads to a greater creative output. So that has been like my biggest insight is there's always more you can do. I think with motion capture in our bodies, you might think like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this way. Find a way. You know, I had to learn how to do a hit react in the air. And I was like, well, I can't levitate in the air. And I was like, or can't I? You know, get really weird and creative with your space, I think, is what I always encourage people, and just be weird in your spare time.
Yeah. Please, we encourage that here at GGP. Is there a difference with 2D motion capture versus 3D, or have you worked with both?
I haven't done 3D. So I'm not sure. The hardest thing is like remembering my line that I have to be on, because as an aerialist, I'm very used to a 360 angle and sort of that rotation. So I think that's probably the biggest difference is 360, probably 3D. Also, you can like be a fully fleshed character. There are certain things I can't do on this plane because they don't track, like certain angles my legs work at or don't work at, or like you have to sort of angle this way. If you're looking this way, nothing works because that's not a two-dimensional.
Right. Yeah. You don't normally like do everything like front facing, but
right.
like you kind of have to adapt to that.
It feels like if you were ever in like middle school theater and you're talking and somebody's, or like you're talking to somebody like this and they're like, cheat open. And you're like, I don't know what that means. I'm 8 years old. Like, so it does kind of feel silly where you're like angling this way. And I'm like, but I would fight this way. But you have to sort of,
you have to, punch this and
punch on this angle.
Yeah. So I have another question for you.
Yeah.
So were you ever in the room when pitching this game to someone who dared challenge you with the statement, queer people don't play video games? If so, how did you push back, and did that pump more fuel into the making of this game?
There was a big call that we had. I was not on this call because during most of this game, I've worked at a bunch of other jobs and I haven't always had time to give to this. That's part why the AT&T Unlocked thing was so exciting for me, because it means I actually get to full-time work on this game. And none of us have been able to work full-time, but I wasn't able to take a lot of calls because I was in the library working. And not a joke from drag, just I actually work in a library. And so there was a call that we had where talking to a queer teen, like two individuals who are queer. And this person said, gay people don't play video games. They're too sensitive. And I've heard
that before. So I was
like, we're right here.
Yeah, right.
Like you're talking to us and we're not that sensitive. And if you are, that's okay. Like, that's not a bad thing to be sensitive. So I haven't been on any of those calls. I don't know if you could tell, I'm not particularly a quiet person in terms of clapping back at people who say things that I think are absolutely untrue. But it has been a challenge to get people like, oh, well, people don't know what drag is. I'm like, they definitely do. Even if you don't, I still think this is an engaging and cool and fun game for people who like don't have a long history and knowledge of drag. Mm-hmm. So, no, I haven't been directly on any of those calls, but we've received them. Okay.
Well, was there ever any challenge? So if you want to draw in the audience that doesn't actually know drag, like how do you like hook them in? Like, because I mean, like you said, like people know of drag, but you also want to like retain an audience that you just want to capture them and bring them into your game, right? whether they be fans of this culture or they just be fans of fighting games or neither. But you just want them to play your game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you like bring all of that into your vision of what you want every user or consumer to experience?
I think for me, I know that the fighting game community has been really interesting because at the start of the game planning, we were like really focused on the drag community. And there was like this weird aha moment where we were like, there's a whole fighting game community who doesn't care that this game is drag based. They like are just really passionate about fighting games and how, movesets work and all those things. And for the most part, a lot of the fighting game community has been really supportive and like kind of don't care that it's drag based. They're just like, this is cool. I love this combo. This is really well. Are you guys going to do this? Da, 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 da. And that's been really interesting. We really lean into the fact that it's a 2D hand drawn fighting game. And it just like it's a lot visually different from most fighting games. It's very bright. It's very colorful. It's very silly on purpose. I think a lot of fighting games are not unintentionally silly, but like lean into the camp in a more sincere way. And we're not, we're like, we know we're dumb. Like, we want to be as dumb as possible. And I think that draws people in. You see these big personalities. I think one of the funnier reactions is we had people play the game and like, there was some interesting messages we got where a person playing the game didn't realize that they were drag performers and thought they were women and was like, are we going to get any like hot shots of these people? And I was like, probably not. But this person made it very clear, like they thought that they were women and wanted to like see more of them. Wink, wink. We were like, okay, well,
it was like BMXXX, like whatever that game was back in the day. I don't even. But like,
yes, exactly that. So it's kind of funny. I think if people see the game without a context for it, they don't almost care that they're drag performers if they don't know. Like, it's not really. And if they do, they're like, oh, cool. I like this persona. But one of our goals is to kind of include a lot of queer culture in the game that just exists there and isn't, I think I said this on the AT&T panel, but I was like, a part of our game is about reminding people that like queer culture and queer people, like you can have a joyful game. It's okay. We don't always have to have the sad story or the dark story or any of that. Like those are meaningful and important and we've all lived them. But at the same time, like we could just have a fun, stupid game and it's okay.
Yes. Which is especially why which is why you won. But yeah, especially why I was so drawn to this game, especially because as a queer person, we've been through those some dark times, but it is great to have like a light such as Drag Her to show us that, you know what, we're fun and silly.
Yeah.
Let's just have fun with this.
Yeah.
But okay, so for a second, I just want to talk about your team.
Yes.
And rarely are games ever built alone, and a good game is usually a testament to a great team. So when was the moment that you knew that you had the right team for this game?
Oh boy, so many times over the course of making this demo.
When did it start?
Over a year, like November 2020-ish was when I came on board. Okay. And I don't think it had a lot of work before then, because I remember Ian and Josie approaching me and sort of, I think once they brought me on, I sort of gave it direction. Like Josie is an incredible artist. Ian is incredible at what he does, like produce it, but I think I am a very let's move forward person. I want to get things done and understood in my mind. And so I know when I came on board, we like created this character and had a trajectory for it. I will cry probably if I start talking about them, but there was a moment we were talking to Matt, who built our game. Like we couldn't have done it without Matt.
Thank you, Matt, if you're watching.
Matt, Ian, Josie, they know. I just constantly message them late at night and I'm like, hey, do you know I freaking love you? Just because they're all so good at what they do. But Matt was in an interview with us. It was like his first interview with us. And I remember, so Ian has a New Zealand accent. And he said something that we all thought was a different word. And we just froze. And we were like, And then we all had that moment of realizing like what he actually said. And we were like, oh, okay. Oh gosh, we don't have to do it. We don't have to dissolve the team. And that was a moment where I knew sort of like, I know that's not a business moment, but it was like a moment where I knew that all of us knew Ian wouldn't have said whatever we thought it was he said.
Yeah, you were in sync. Like you just connected. You got it. You understand. I mean, you didn't understand. But
we didn't.
All collectively did.
But it was funny and wholesome because I feel like we all just like were like, what's happening? And Matt, for his first interview with us, didn't say anything, was just kind of like, I'm gonna wait and see what happens here. And we were all like, oh my gosh. And I think we have a lot of those moments where we just work really well together. And I'm gonna cry, but they're so talented, and I couldn't have done any of this without any of them.
Oh, well, thank you to the team. Special shout out to them, because
always
it's a collaborative effort, as we know in creating games.
Anybody who wants to say that I mean, aside from maybe the person who made Stardew Valley, who did it all themselves, but I think it would be impossible.
Right. Yeah. Well, hats off to all of you involved.
2 hats.
Million plus one. All right, now we're going to dive into a little bit of drag culture, okay? Which is a very dedicated fan base, Jessica, as you know. It could be campy, it could be fashion, it could be sexy, it could be really funny, amongst many other things, right?
Yep.
So how did you maintain that level of respect for this community while also having fun in creating your world, right? Because you can't insult the drag community, right?
No.
But it's so campy though. But so
it's a hard line, right? Because we're like, hey, we're dumb, we're a part of this culture, but also we respect and love this culture. One of the things that was really important for me was making sure, and you don't see a lot of this in the demo, but you will once we fully craft the game, is there is a big dedication to ball culture and the original forms of drag that I think a lot of people who maybe watch RuPaul's Drag Race or Dragula or things don't always get to enjoy, because we don't know, right? Paris is Burning, while if you know a lot about drag, is a really important kind of movie moment, not a lot of people know about Paris is Burning, in the sense that an average person might not. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure that people, know the Crystal LeBeijas of the world, and make sure to include that, because I think history is important. Our drag history, our drag culture from the, beginnings is important. And I want to make sure to include that. We also tried to push that story so whenever we worked with people when we brought artists on board, a lot of our team was female. This is a weird thing, but we don't have a straight white man on our team. And that's not to say we won't ever, but when we were creating our demo, all of the people on our team are either queer or people of color or members of the LGBTQ plus community, women. So we wanted to kind of lean into the people who really, really helped get drag and helped elevate it to this place that it is now, Mm-hmm. So making sure, I think, that we are reverent of drag and drag culture, and how we walk the line. I'm not sure. I'm sure sometimes we don't hit the mark. I know we've definitely, I've seen the comments isn't this incredibly disrespectful? I'm like, I hope you don't think so. It comes from a place of absolute adoration. And I think it's always one of those things where we want to be mindful. So if anybody ever catches anything that they find incredibly insulting, let me know. It's really not meant to be, but it's a tricky road.
It's a like you said, it's a tough line to go down, and make sure you don't teeter on one side or the other. Yeah. So I personally love drag culture. But just hearing you speak of Paris is Burning and wanting to respect just what you're bringing into this game is amazing. So what about, or were there any particular things of drag culture that you were especially excited to incorporate into the game?
Yes. So many. So one of the things we've talked about, our producer does not care about this at all, but the artist and I, Josie, we're just like, we want mini games. We want mini games. And one of them we really want is a voguing mini game. And I'm actually really looking forward to that because one, I won't be doing the motion capture for that.
Can you vogue?
I can, but I mean, I would much rather bring in a professional like voguing team of people. Okay. You know what I mean? Like that's to me something that I would.
If you're looking to hire anyone, I think I can give a mean duck walk. But, I won't do it right now.
Okay. Sure.
But just like this, I'm as pitching myself, or if you need any talent down the road.
Listen, we need it. We're open. Yeah, but I mean, like we want to include voguing because that's such an integral part of drag, I think. And it's not to say that everybody who does drag has to do it. One of the things I love about our game, and I think Alaska 5000, who's in our game, has that joke about like, if you aren't wearing nails, you aren't doing drag. And that's a satirical joke, right? Because like drag is anything you want it to be. Mm-hmm. You don't have to wear nails to do drag. And so this idea that like anything can be drag if you make it so. But I know we're very excited. I'm very excited about the voguing thing. I'm also really excited about, I love fashion. I say that wearing this like little plaid shirt, but I mean like the fashion aspect, like there are certain queens, Manila Luzon is an example of like camp fashion combined into one for me. And that's what I live for. So I can't wait to like make a spaghetti dress and see that, on screen and feel good about that somehow. But I think the voguing is the biggest one. We have some other mini games. Like we have one, there was a Street Fighter little mini game where you would like beat up a car or a truck. We have that. We want to do that, but it's called Beat the Mug. And it's just you like putting makeup on somebody until they look absolutely just beat in a good way.
Like a mini challenge on RuPaul's Drag Race. Yeah, exactly.
So we have a lot of that. One of the things, I mean, I'm really excited about, obviously, because I'm the narrative designer, is we are going to include a career mode. Everybody loves a working girl, so we gotta, and I've started writing the story and it's so dumb. It's so silly. And I think that'll be really fun because that'll give us an opportunity to incorporate a lot more drag personalities. I know people were like, oh, you guys seem to have like a smaller roster, which we do. We're a small team. We don't have a ton of funds. We want to pay the drag artists what they deserve. Like that's number one to us. This is our community. We want to uplift our community.
Right, but of course.
Yeah, like having a game where there's more story mode where we can incorporate more, even just queer personalities. They don't have to be drag, you know what I mean? Drag performers. That's really exciting to me because I love that.
Right. Do you have something envisioned where like, Mortal Kombat was like move up the ladder kind of thing? Was that story mode or is that?
That was, okay. They had sort of like the tower. They still have it. It's great where you like kind of fight through your way to Shang Tsung, or it became Shao Kahn. Yeah, that's right. I always get Shao Kahn and Shere Khan confused because Shere Khan is from Jungle Book. Both with daddies.
Tomato. Yeah. Both daddies. You're amazing.
Yeah. So our career mode is a little bit like, I don't know how to describe it. It is sort of this thing where you will like go through fighting processes. We are hopeful to have some sort of like bosses.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask, is there, so I know whatever you're comfortable with disclosing, like what like big personalities or drag artists are you bringing into the game? Or are there any bosses that you can share? But the game's not finished yet, so I don't want you to spoil anything.
I can't share any bosses or anything. We have discussed it. Okay. The drag personalities we have in the game so far, for those who don't know, I mentioned Kimchi, a Korean drag artist. We have Landon Sider, who's a drag king from Long Beach. I always forget all of them, so I'm really stressed. We have Manila Luzon. We have Laganja Estranja, Alaska 5000, Ben de la Creme, and Asia O'Hara are our roster. I think that's everyone.
Oh my God.
And then we're going to have assist characters. I was told that we should pick a different word because assist means something to Marvel vs. Capcom people. And my response was, I don't care. Like, in the sense that I was like, redefine what words mean to you. You know what I mean? Like, just because Marvel vs. Capcom's assist works one way doesn't mean ours has to work one way. So we call it assist. So you summon assist to come help you.
Like ASIS.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And our assists right now, we have Jiggly Caliente and Tammy Brown, just two. It's just iconic, and I'm so excited. So that's our current roster of people who are definitely involved, who we have signed on. We approached a lot of people who either told us we didn't have enough money or didn't want to be involved or anything. So we're hoping this game kind of gaining some attention and momentum makes them reconsider being a part of this, what I hope is just an iconic like game for drag people.
Yeah, that's an impressive roster to begin with. So incredible job in like being able to bring them into this project and convincing that this is something like that's going to be like just beneficial to everyone all around, just consumer and for them as the drag artist. So that's just so cool. I didn't realize that the roster was that big. So yeah, amazing.
Thank you. A little bit of something for everyone, you know?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. There's a lot of like fan bases within the drag culture, but like fan bases for all these different drag queens that you've brought in, drag queens, drag kings, that you brought in, that I think like really caters to the entire community. So bravo.
Oh, so humble.
Are there any Easter eggs that you might like, sprinkle in?
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you about them.
Maybe look out in the background.
Yes. Okay. There's gonna be a ton of wild. So Josie, our artist, is like, he is what I said, like the king of Easter eggs. He is always, so like in the demo, there's a little thing where one of the characters gets knocked back. I think I can mention this. If I can't, just cut this out of there. Where you can very briefly see like the person's skirt flies up just because it's a physics thing. And they're wearing like a Tommy Pickles Rugrats diaper. Because why not?
Yes. Thank you to millennials, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like you playing the game, you will never notice it, but we know what it is. So there's going to be a ton of stuff like that. Josie and I are both obsessed with puppets, so maybe there might be something related to puppets happening.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm hoping that it's just like nonstop a waterfall, raging waters experience of like a video game and queer culture crossover.
Absolutely. Do you get to have any voice cameos in the game, or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We do. All
right. I hope your entire team has something in store for us. All right. And I want to ask like one last question. Do you dream of one day seeing Drag Her in like a arcade cabinet at some new age arcade bar?
Yes. We have drawings of it in our chat that we look at. So when we go and bring our game, like we went to LA Comic-Con recently. I'm thinking we'll probably go to DragCon in May.
Okay. It's coming back for the first time, I think, since
it is. Yeah. Okay. Yes. And definitely one of the better conventions I've been to. Just the people were so lovely. And I think that's obviously the perfect place for our game. We have like a cardboard version of a cabinet, and it looks amazing, but it's all paper. And our dream is to have like a full cabinet with weird buttons that in 20 years, you're like, what was that game that I remember with the drag people? Because that's me playing Mortal Kombat 1 in arcades, getting my butt whooped because I am not good at Mortal Kombat.
As I think if we played each other, it's just fall over.
Yeah. But we would. That's probably one of our biggest dreams, is to have a cabinet, because I also think it's a visual sign of like, we're here, we're queer, get used to it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're here, we deserve a game.
Totally.
That's it.
I hope the same dream for you too. Like I really want to be at a barcade somewhere in LA and just see Drag Her, the cabinet. Oh my gosh. And,
imagine.
Right. I'm like, I was there at the creation. I spoke with Jessica.
Yes. And then I'll just cry because I cry I mean, if you saw the AT&T thing, I am just sobbing at the end. The production person was like, it's okay. It's okay. And I was like, just a small team. It means that I get to work full time on our game now, and it might actually come out, sooner than however long it would have taken if I only got to work on it part time.
Mm-hmm. Is there any I was probably hard to tell now, but do you have a goal in mind of when you'd like the completion of the game or the release?
Yeah, I think our alpha is projected for second quarter of next year of 2023. We have this weird thing where we're not exactly sure how fast we can work on the game because none of us have been able to work on it full time. And now that we can, I sort of think it's going to fly by. I'm a quick worker, Mm-hmm. It's fun work to be other people's drag personas. So it goes pretty quick for me.
I can only imagine. Yeah. It's a great job to wake up to. I would assume, but
it's the best.
Yeah. All right. So I want to thank you again for coming on to our channel again today. Lastly, I just want to ask, how can our audience support you the most? Are there any links or social media that you'd like to share with them? Or is funding still open for Drag Her?
The Kickstarter is done, but you can go to dragher.game and just subscribe for updates and things like that. We'd love that. You can I don't even know. This is bad, Jessica, what I should follow us on social media. It's Drag Her the Game on Instagram and Twitter, probably. If you search Drag Her the Game, it will come up. But dragher.game is our website. I know that for sure.
Okay.
And that's where you can subscribe and get, silly messages from us about where progress is and things like that. And really all we care about is just tell people about the game, get people excited about it, talking about it, because the more people are excited about it and kind of the more we hope people talk to their favorite drag performers about being in the game, the more those people will be in the game and understand what it is. We definitely at the start have people who are like, no, thank you. We don't know what that is. And, near the end of our Kickstarter campaign, Ben de la Creme was like, I want to be in this game. We were like, oh, we would love to have you, Ben de la Creme.
Yes.
So I think just the more people talk about it and share about it and get excited for it, the more excited we get for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm extremely excited. Thank you again. This is the wonderful, effervescent Jessica from Drag Her, lead narrative designer. Thank you again for coming to GGP's channel.
Thank you so much, Mason. It's been such a blast.
It was a pleasure having you. Thank you.
Look
forward to playing the complete Drag Her. All right. Bye, everyone.